Juanita, the UK, Italy, and Japan are teaming up to build the next generation of stealth fighter jets by 2035, and we now know Canada is expected to play a role. Sources say Defence Minister David McGuinty will be travelling to the UK with other ministers for a major international air show next week, and while he's here, is expected to announce a new deal to become an observer of the Global Combat Air Programme. A senior government official told me that it's a way for Canada to get in on early on advanced technology, talk about what Canadian companies can contribute, and a source said that it opens the door to potentially buying these fighter jets in the future. Since this is just the first step, I'm told that there isn't a financial cost at this point to joining.
And Ashley, Canada is still reviewing if it will move ahead with buying dozens of U.S. F-35 fighter jets. So what does this mean for that?
Well, sources say that they don't expect that this will impact that. The government has been reviewing that F-35 plan for more than a year because of Donald Trump's tariffs pummeling some Canadian industries. And sources say that this program Canada's joining isn't a replacement for the F-35s. Instead, it could offer Canada new capabilities in the future.
Canada is taking control of its future with a surprise defense move that strengthens its global position and reduces its dependence on Washington. This decision could give Canada more choices and greater influence. For the United States, it is a setback that could weaken its influence over one of its closest allies. Canada has reached a deal to join the Global Combat Air Programme as an official observer and defense minister. David McGuinty is expected to travel to the United Kingdom next week to sign the formal agreement at the Farnborough International Air Show. The GCAP is a £4.6 billion sixth-generation fighter jet program being built by the United Kingdom, Japan, and Italy. The aircraft is targeted to enter service in 2035. Canada has also been simultaneously reviewing its existing 88 aircraft, F-35 order, and is already flying two of the most advanced fighter jets in the back, whirled over the skies of Ontario as political pressure from Washington grows louder. On July 4th, the U.S. ambassador to Canada had a pair of F-35s roar over his Ottawa party, a documented political message about what Canada should be buying. Canada's response has been to join a sixth-generation fighter program that America is not part of. The GCAP formally began on December 9th, 2022, when the governments of Italy, Japan, and the United Kingdom jointly announced they would merge their separate sixth-generation fighter projects, the UK-led Before Anyone Else Systems Tempest and Japan's Mitsubishi FX, into a single program. A treaty was signed in December 2023. The Edgewing joint venture, equally owned by Before Anyone Else Systems, Leonardo of Italy, and Japan Aircraft Industrial Enhancement Co., was established to lead aircraft design. On July 3rd, 2026, 12 days before Canada's Observer deal was confirmed, the UK, Japan, and Italy signed a £4.6 billion contract with Edgewing to fund the next full-scale detailed design and engineering phase. That contract is the largest single funding commitment in GCAP's history and represents the program's transition from concept to hardware. A demonstrator aircraft is expected to fly in 2027. Production aircraft are targeted to begin entering service from 2035. The aircraft being developed is not a conventional fifth-generation platform equivalent to the F-35. GCAP's Tempest is designed as a large, twin-engine, low-observable, sixth-generation system, a manned aircraft built to command and coordinate uncrewed drones, sensors, and weapons across air, land, sea, space, and cyber domains simultaneously. Senior GCAP officials have stated the jet could potentially carry enough internal fuel to fly across the Atlantic without refueling. Its weapons payload capacity is described as roughly twice that of the F-35A. The aircraft's principal configuration is currently being frozen, and its structural architecture validated ahead of prototype manufacturing under the £4.6 billion Edgewing contract. Canada's path to the July 15th Observer deal began with a documented bilateral meeting. Defense Minister David McGuinty met with Japanese Defense Minister Shinjiro Koizumi in Tokyo on March 6, 2026. Following that meeting, McGuinty told Reuters that he had discussed the GCAP and described it as a promising initiative. "We are interested in learning more about it." I'll take it back to my team and see what it looks like, McGuinty told the outlet. Italian Defense Minister Guido Crosetto subsequently identified Canada as the country most interested in GCAP at the moment and stated he would be fully open to Canada joining as an observer. The Asahi Shimbun, Japan's largest daily newspaper, reported in late March 2026 that Japan, the UK, and Italy were coordinating Canada's inclusion as an observer, with a formal announcement being prepared for a defense ministers' meeting in the UK in July. Observer status is a specific legal and institutional arrangement within multinational weapons programs. It grants access to classified or confidential data on the aircraft's design, technologies, performance, and development process, without granting voting rights, financial obligations to the development program, or a commitment to purchase the aircraft. Canada has not previously participated in any international fighter jet consortium other than the American-led F-35 Joint Strike Fighter program. It did not join the Eurofighter consortium that produced the Typhoon. GCAP observer status will be the first time Canada has positioned itself formally inside a non-American fighter development framework. They're also sending a message to the United States that we have a choice. Canada has agency in this matter, said Trevor Taylor, director of the Defense, Industries and Society program at the Royal United Services Institute in London, and that it is very reluctant to be forced into a particular line of action. The American pressure on Canada's fighter procurement has been documented and specific. U.S. Ambassador Pete Hoekstra has been publicly pressing the Canadian government to proceed with the purchase of all 88 F-35s without modification. The July 4th Ottawa flyover of 35s arranged at Hoekstra's party was reported as a deliberate signal to the Carney government. The United States has its own separate sixth-generation fighter program, the F-47, announced by Trump on March 21st, 2026, which it is developing independently and which is not part of the GCAP framework. Canada joining GCAP as an observer therefore places it inside a sixth-generation development program run by allies who are also F-35 operators, examining an aircraft that GCAP officials say is being designed to be interoperable with American platforms, while the U.S. ambassador is simultaneously lobbying Ottawa to complete the F-35 order in full. Canada currently operates approximately 75 CF-18A/B+ jets alongside 18 upgraded former Australian F/A-18A/Bs acquired to bridge the fleet gap during the F-35 procurement process. Of Canada's first 16 contracted F-35s, 4 have been paid for in full, with parts for 8 others purchased. The first Canadian F-35s were expected to begin delivery for training at Luke Air Force Base, Arizona, in 2026, meaning Canada is actively receiving fifth-generation American fighters. At the same time, its defense minister is signing an observer agreement for a sixth-generation non-American program. The two procurement tracks are simultaneous, not sequential. The industrial opportunity embedded in Canada's GCAP observer status is the element that Canadian aerospace industry groups have noted most carefully. Companies with observer status in GCAP have access to assessed information that allows them to position for future supply chain roles, components, systems, maintenance, and training infrastructure even before a purchase decision is made. Canada's aerospace sector, concentrated in Quebec through Bombardier and its supply chain network, and in Ontario through defense contractors, represents a manufacturing base that GCAP's founding nations have described as commercially compatible with their supply chain requirements. The Farnborough International Airshow signing ceremony, expected next week, will formalize an arrangement that, as Rousse's Taylor described it, functions as a first date, giving both parties the structured interaction required to assess whether the relationship deepens into something more consequential.